Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Hey, my friends, thank you for joining us this morning. Well, the well-laid plans of mice and men, huh? As we've mentioned several times on the program, we're losing Podbean. They're discontinuing the live stream option. So we've had to do something a tad bit different here. And, well, it hasn't gone quite like I expected. So anyone who joins us this morning, I want to thank you for sharing the adventure. And I want to apologize. It's not my best work by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not making any excuses. I'm just offering an explanation. Today we're going to be visiting with Slanina, and she's the author and creator of the Annie Mouse series. Delightful book series, a series to get kids interested in the American story, the Great American Road Trip, and discovering America. We're going to see how this works out today, but this is going to probably be the new home for Coffee with Jim. We will keep the Substack going as kind of a central hub for the website, social media, everything that we're doing. And we're revamping the website. And as, like I say, not an excuse, but an explanation. We planned on doing this. I tried different platforms. This seemed to be the easiest for me. And as I'm not overly tech savvy, and as some of my guests are less tech savvy than I am, we wanted simplicity and less stress, at least for the guests. I downloaded and started working with the OSB studio setup to enhance this, make this a little more professional. And well, I encountered a lot of issues. As you can see, I got a bit of a cold, and I had tremendous issues with our internet provider this last week. I was literally down for several days, which was not a good thing by any stretch of the imagination. And well, that just threw everything under the bus. Not an excuse, just an explanation. Hey, let's see if we can find Slanina, and we'll get this show on the road, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some things. Ann, how are you doing this morning?
I am just peachy. How are you?
You know, God's bless. I always say this, but I would literally have to be dead a week for it to get better than this.
Oh dear. So you've got a bug, huh?
Yeah, I've had a great fun week. Added incentive to become an Amish farmer.
All right. And what exactly prompted you to decide to do this?
Every time I start trying to tangle with tech stuff, I start thinking more and more about becoming an Amish farmer. And maybe I can compromise, become kind of a midway Amish farmer kind of thing, and at least have a Model A Ford pickup.
There you go. You know, I live in an Amish community. There are Amish surrounding me. And it's really interesting, you know, to watch them farm, and Lord knows how they get so much done in a day.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's not a bad gig for you then. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no clue what to say on any of this. Anyway, like say, it's my own fault. I was just explaining to the people this morning that it's not an excuse, just an explanation. Podbean announced that they were going to be discontinuing the live stream programming. So I just had figured that out. So it set me to scrambling, trying to find other solutions. And I tinkered with Substack and some others. And as I'm not tech savvy, I wanted to go simple for me, keep my stress down, but also for my guests, a lot of times who are less tech savvy than I am. So I decided to try the YouTube situation and using OSB Studio. I haven't figured out OSB yet. I'm working on that. So we're just going straight YouTube Live. But then compounding it, my internet provider threw a wrench in the works this last week. I was literally down without internet service for several days this last week. And that just torpedoed everything else I had going. So it became a cascading fun thing. But enough about me. You are on the road.
I am indeed, yes.
Where are we at this morning?
I am outside of Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay. How's the weather?
The weather has been volatile, as usual. And but there was a terrible storm, I think, 2 nights ago. I'm getting, my days just all blur together after a while. But I was really very fortunate because I was behind the huge hail. So I just got the terrible storm, but I had heard the next morning that ahead of me was the baseball-size hail. And so I've been avoiding the worst of the worst. So my new normal for good weather is as long as there's no major hail that, bursts my windshield or the rest of my vehicle gets pummeled, and no tornadoes, and I'm good. The gentle storm we had here through the night and this morning, some thunder, some lightning, pouring rain. I could live with that. But the hail and the tornadoes, not so much. So I'm good.
I had an old cowboy tell me once that if you think today's bad, wait till next week when it's worse. You'll look back on this as the good old days.
Exactly.
Yeah, the weather, something we all talk about and nobody does anything about. Isn't that something?
And indeed, and back in the old Andy Griffith show, was it that attributed that to Calvin Coolidge saying that? I don't know if you ever saw that episode.
No, I did not.
So that's what he was saying. You know what Calvin Coolidge used to say? It was just so bizarre. But anyway,
are you headed for California?
Well, I'm hoping to, get pretty far. I definitely want to get into California. I have to be back in Columbus, Ohio, May 30th. My granddaughter is graduating from high school, so I need to be, back in Ohio on the 30th. And, I've been averaging about 100 miles a day so far, so we'll see how far I get.
So how is Annie Mouse doing?
Well, last year when I did the route, I stopped at the Rock and Roll Museum and Hall of Fame in Joliet. And Christine, who's the volunteer at the gift shop there, said, we have all these passports for adults. Can you come up with something for kids for the centennial? And, we chatted for a few minutes and I filed it in the back of my brain. And I thought, I'm just never going to have time to pull something together like that. And I had 6 other projects going, as well as being asked to substitute teach in my local school district frequently. So I didn't think it was going to happen. And then in October, I came up with the idea and I got very excited about it and went full steam ahead on it. And then it stalled because I was asked to write a curriculum for a kids program for a local museum. And I put it on pause. And a couple months later, when I said, oh, this centennial project for Route 66 for kids is never happening, I then, December 10th, tore my meniscus. And everything else that I had on my plate went away. And I had surgery. So while I was laid up, I had plenty of time to finish the book. So there was the, silver lining in the disastrous, health episode. So I'm really excited about it because it's not a passport. It's an activity book. So what I did, and to create the cover, I used my first photo journal, the vehicle drawing from that, and my photographs to kind of make a montage for a very engaging cover. And then all of my photographs were used to create the coloring pages inside, but it's so much more than a coloring book. There are things like, for instance, on the blue whale page, I have the blue whale, and it says, the blue whale has lost his leg. Can you draw in the blue whale? Give him back his home or something of that nature. So there's something that to engage kids while they're on the road at these various locations. Look at this picture, and you find something wrong with it. The Atlanta Museum, it's the giants that are beside the museum are not the giants that are actually there. So trying to engage kids. So the way that it morphed, it's really something I'm hoping that families will get involved in and work on together. That some of the drawings are a little more intricate, and parents might want to do the coloring on those. So it's my hope that it engages families, not just a specific age group.
On many, many, many levels, this is really an important project. Getting families to interact together and experience things, getting kids engaged. Screen time, people I think overreact. We live in a tech world, and kids need screen time. They need iPads, computers. They need these things to be able to function in today's world. But if it's the centerpiece and that's all they have, that's no good. It's no good at all. It's I even used to say that about books. If all you do is read books, but you don't experience life and do things, you gotta have that balance. But this is an incredible way to encourage kids and instill a lifelong passion for road trips.
Right. Yeah. So I am really excited about it. I also included 2 pages. I have a page, Gone But Not Forgotten, for Rich Henry. And I have a page in there for Ramona and Bob, because I think it's also important to kind of, honor their legacy. Yes. And make people aware of their, contributions to the route as well.
Yeah, the Route 66 Walk of Fame was started here in Kingman back in 2014, and for some reason it was never it kind of withered on the vine. And Kingman Main Street picked it up recently, but it's morphed into more of a Depot Plaza's become a place where they can sell bricks for fundraising and commemorate people, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but a Route 66 Walk of Fame, and there's so many people. We just lost Connie Eccles.
Right.
And there was another contributor, and there's so many through the years, Bob Waldmeyer and Laurel Kane, and so many that have contributed to the Renaissance, and let alone the people that came before that are the reason we're talking this morning, that
right.
built this highway that doesn't even exist, that now has an international fan club.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Speaking of Laurel Kane and those who have passed, Gary, of course, from Gary's Gay Parita.
Yes.
It was interesting. I had my series of Guardian Angel books before I did the Route 66. And on that one particular trip that I made, Laurel said to me, why don't you have an Annie Mouse adventure on Route 66? We really could use something like that for kids. We don't have anything for kids. And then Gary, when I stopped on my eastward trip, I stopped at Gary's, and he said, you really need to do an Annie Mouse adventure on 66. So both of them, saying it on the same trip, I said, okay, I need to think about that. So that's really, how it morphed. I was doing the trip for my pleasure and enjoyment and hadn't thought about doing an Annie Mouse adventure on 66. And now I have 5.
Well,
I have the 2 photo journals, the chapter book, the first coloring book, and now this adventure book.
Yeah, we do need activities for kids. And now I'm going to have to encourage you to do an Annie Mouse adventure on US 6.
Oh.
Through Pennsylvania. And yeah.
I had that, wanting to do that trip. That was on my bucket list for last summer, and it never happened. Life keeps getting in the way, as you well know.
Sure.
My mom is 97 and still with us. And there were, several bouts of, where she had taken a turn for the worse and, I really needed to be around and being more helpful than I'd been to my sister, who she lives with, in the past. So a lot of things just kind of got put on the side. But she is, since it is Mother's Day, just a little, honoring her for a second. She's amazingly cognitively aware.
Yeah.
It's just that, at this point, her body is saying, I'm a little bit tired.
97, that's an accomplishment. I tell you, it's kind of sad. We sometimes talk about older folks, like when they can still walk, like it's kind of a little sad sometimes, but gosh darn it, surviving 97 years, all the slings and arrows of life, that's an accomplishment. Right.
Especially, at a time when she was raising us. I'm one of 7. And, when she was raising us, that, you didn't have a lot of choices as a woman. So, I think that she had to really give up a lot, to be the good traditional wife.
That's a great segue. I've got it in my head, a project, and I've had this simmering since I was associate editor for Cars and Parts, but it's morphed and grown. I want to do a book on the unsung heroes of the automotive industry, and I have been uncovering some incredible stories of women involved with the early auto industry that I had never heard, and I'm not sure many people are even really aware of, like Florence Lawrence. One of the Hollywood's first superstars, big money stars on the silver screen back 1906, 7, 8, 9. And she was passionate about automobiles and fast automobiles. And she became a very proficient mechanic. And she came up with some revolutionary ideas. Unfortunately, she didn't really patent them. Things like turn signals and brake lights, and she started one of the first successful kind of J.C. Whitney aftermarket auto parts catalogs.
Wow.
And Studebaker in the 1920s put together a design studio and hired a lot of women to design the interiors of their cars. Yeah.
Yeah. So many things that women have trailblazed have been... they've gone unnoticed and have been attributed, and unfortunately, in every industry, it seems.
Well, and it's not just women, it's just in general. We know of Ford, we know of the Dodge brothers, we know of Walter Chrysler, but how many people know about, Will's, John Willis, or, Jonathan Maxwell, or Howard Libby? How many people know about it? Ralph Teeter, one of my favorites, the blind inventor who came up with cruise control.
Oh, wow.
There's just so many of these. One of the great stories, since you're on the road, you'll really appreciate this. I have been gathering information to do a series of stories about Effie Hotchkiss. She was passionate about motorcycles back 1910 era. And she would get in trouble in New York for estimated speeds of 75 miles an hour on Broadway on her motorcycle. She was one of the first woman to be go through the Harley Davidson mechanic school. She became a proficient Harley Davidson mechanic. And in 1915, she decided to attend the Panama Pacific Exposition in California. And this is the newspaper's words, not mine. She had a custom-made sidecar built for her camping gear and her rotund mother. She took, and they became the first women to cross the United States by motorcycle.
I like that word, rotund.
Yes, I thought that added a touch of humor to this. So, yes. So what are we doing on the road? Just are we gathering new information? Working? I got ideas for another project, or?
Well, I am kind of doing a combination of just enjoying all of the new things that are coming up, and gathering many more photographs, as I always do. And I had a really nice visit with Roman Rich at the Shamrock Court on my earlier, a few days back, and saw all of his improvements. And every year when I've come through, I've kind of stopped there just to see how it was.
Yeah, he done them. I went through that property when Billy Whalen still had it, shortly before Rich bought it. And it was pretty intact, but it needed
a lot.
Yeah, that's an understatement. And Rich and his wife Christina, they've done, and his team, the people he built, have done a fantastic job. And I can't think of better stewards for the Wagon Wheel Motel than Roman Rich.
Right. And, I've seen his videos as he's done each phase as well, but it was just so much more. His pictures and videos are not really capturing the real beauty of it. I was just blown away. There's a ceiling medallion in the entranceway, and I liked how he described it. He said it had been tobacco yellow was the color of it. It had never been painted, and his one worker hand painted all of the real fine detail. And it is just gorgeous. It is amazing. And, this counter where you check in, everything. And the fountain out front, it is really spectacular. He's just done an amazing job in the attention to detail. I was, the progress even from last year when I stopped to see it was pretty amazing. And then, I couldn't believe when he decided to take on the wagon wheel, but really glad that he did. So he kind of joked. He says, I'm Roman Rich, but, I'm not having much time to roam these days.
No. But, you find these pockets. Route 66 is not unique in this. People want an authentic experience. People are hungry for cultural and heritage and something they can touch and feel. So you find these pockets on US 50, US 80, US 12, but Route 66 is amazing. How it inspires people to take these projects on. David Brenner at the Roadrunner Lodge in Tucumcari, New Mexico. Joe Sonderman and I were in Tucumcari for an event several years ago, and we toured that property before David got it. And pardon my French, folks, but I wouldn't have wet on that building if it was on fire. It was beyond bad. And
I know
David has done phenomenal job creating a 1960s experience with just a few of the modern amenities that we need and expect today.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
Stayed there. Every time I've come through, it's really been full. But like you, before he bought it, I thought, this is going to be restored? Really? Yeah. It was pretty rough. And so, yeah, he really, beautified that area there, even, from the exterior.
Yeah.
But I was when I was coming through Atlanta, Illinois, and my goal that particular day was to go on to Springfield. But I was looking ahead, and the sky was a really strange color of brown. Not the color of a storm. And the one shop that I went in, the young lady said, we just got a travel advisory about, low visibility because of the dust storm. So she said, you really should stop and not go forward. And I said, well, where's there to stay here? Because I didn't think Atlanta had any lodging. Now, you might already know that there is lodging, but I didn't. There's a travel lodge in Atlanta. Were you aware of that?
There's a little single-story motel, too, out by the truck stop, out by the highway.
Yeah, it is now a travel lodge.
Okay.
It's a great value and very clean and bright, and everything has been redone. So, if you ever need lodging in Atlanta, it's highly recommended. It's kind of a hidden gem. I think they said they took it over about a year ago and redid it.
You would have laughed. I had some business. I was doing a program in Atlanta when Whitney Ortiz was the tourism director. And so we had to stay overnight in Atlanta, and I had a meeting with Bill Thomas the next morning. And that was that's really the only motel in that area, immediate area. And the people who owned it were very nice. The motel was very clean, but it was absolutely bizarre. The room, I cannot make this up. I am not that imaginative. If you were to hire a team of blind painters and turn them loose in the room, you couldn't have done better. They had literally, this is no joke. They had painted over the outlets. They had painted they had painted sections of the curtains. They had painted the part of the TV. It was comedic. The place was surgically clean. It was nice. It was reasonable, but it was comedic. Everything was painted. It was just the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. They had painted everything. Yeah. When they spilled paint on like the dresser, they, instead of wiping it up or cleaning it up, they just used their paintbrush and smoothed it out. And they did that with curtains, the television.
That is bizarre.
Yeah.
That has the strangest thing. I've seen some really bad paint jobs, but I don't think I've seen anything that matches that.
No, I never have. Only thing I could think of is they got a discount because they hired blind painters. It was, or they painted at night in the dark with the lights off. I don't know. It was
or they gave kids something to do to keep them out of the way, and it was children.
But this is another thing with the Route 66 travel and Route 66 experience. It's not for everybody. If you can't do without some things, and you have to have the Marriott, Holiday Inn Express, all these things, the Shamrock, the Roadrunner Lodge, the Wagon Wheel, you're not going to be happy. You're just not going to be happy. But if you have a sense of adventure and a little imagination, the road trip is still So exciting, so much fun.
Right. My one requirement is coffee. I have to have coffee. And if you don't have coffee, there has to be a coffee place nearby. And I'm happy. That's what I need to get going in the morning.
Coffee's good. Cleanliness is all I really care about. And Judy and I, it doesn't matter. The rest of it, how dated it is, if they've painted the curtains, it doesn't matter as long as it's clean. And we've gotten into some, I mean, I'm sure you have too with your travels, some really, really bizarre ones. We got into I think it was National something over in Cave City, Kentucky once. And hands down, that rates at the top of my list for the weirdest experiences I've ever had in a motel. That was just truly bizarre.
Was that you didn't stay at?
Yeah, it was a massive block long, mid 19th century railroad hotel. And we'd confirmed our reservations. We'd made sure that we were okay. We stayed there because there was supposed to be a restaurant and there was no other place to eat for 70 miles.
Oh dear.
And then we got there and there was nobody there. Nobody. And we finally got a hold of the lady. We'd called several different numbers and she said, "Oh, there's the key to the front door and the key to your rooms under the coffee can behind the rocking chair on the porch." And it was bizarre. There was nobody there. Everything looked clean. And then you start looking and the lampshades were filled with cobwebs, like nobody had been there for decades. Yeah, it was pretty odd. Judy kept thinking of that song Hotel California, but you check in, but you never leave. Just
Yes. But you ended up not staying, right?
No, we did not stay. It was just a little way over the top bizarre.
Well, a couple nights ago, I had a perfectly normal experience, but I didn't think it was at first because in the middle of a storm, I stopped. And, I pulled over to the side of the road just to see, on my app what I could find close by and booked something. And right on the, confirmed reservation, I pressed on the address, to put into my my Apple Maps. And it took me to... and it was the correct number and the correct street. It took me to an abandoned hotel. It was completely closed up, completely, not functioning. And I said, well, I thought I was on the right website, but maybe it was one of those cloned ones and I've been scammed. So I started to panic. And then I looked at the address and I've discovered my Apple Map has done this several times on me now. The address was East whatever street. And even though I touched on that, my Apple Map changed it to West whatever street. So it took me down the road the wrong way. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, hallelujah. I didn't just pay for a room to stay at this closed building in the parking lot. So it all worked out. But now this is like the third time my Apple Map did that. Change the address.
I depend on a lot of, just like everybody with phone and apps and maps, but I just what I've been dealing with this week as an example. I do not have unquestionable faith in tech. So I travel like Route 66 with Jerry McClanahan's Easy 66 Atlas, Easy 66 guide. And I've got a old, my truck driving days, I keep a fresh Rand McNally map, an Atlas. I don't trust tech 100%.
Right. I did visit with Jerry yesterday and did pick up his newest edition of the Bible and got him to autograph it for me as well. So I have a whole series of those. His sixth, I think it's the 6th edition, whatever it is, the latest one. So,
That's another example. Yeah, what Route 66 is so unique. On one hand, you have Marian Pavel's wonderful and innovative Route 66 navigation app. And then the flip side is you have Jerry's wonderful Easy 66 guide that's a throwback to the 1950s with his notes and hand-drawn maps, his cell phone number and his address so you can stop by and talk to him. It's really odd, the dichotomy of how this Route 66, the overlays, the blurring of the lines between past and present is really fascinating.
Definitely. And, speaking of the past and present, my book, my activity book has been very well received, everybody who has seen it in person. But I did have a comment from somebody at one of the places. I did not know this young lady, but this was a send me, she didn't see it in person, send me a picture of the cover of your new book. And she just had something very derogatory about, that looks AI generated. We can't carry anything like that. And I was so stunned at her response. I didn't really respond appropriately. I didn't respond to let her know, no, my cover isn't AI generated. These are my drawings and my pictures that I, put into the program to arrange to have a pleasing looking cover. I never explained that to her, but I think probably, she's a new buyer for this particular place and it clearly isn't familiar with my other books, but I think that some people have gotten so, upset about the AI crap that has come out and it didn't even occur to me when I was talking to her, because I hadn't even become aware of that yet, because this was, like a month ago. And now since I could see what she was responding to, so I started to get kind of defensive about it, but I didn't even know how to respond to her on the phone at the time. And now, now that I see all the other crap coming out, especially with some of the Route 66 guides that are on Amazon that aren't really anything reflective of the route, or, making up names of hotels that don't exist and places that don't exist and taking you to nowhere. I can kind of understand, where she's coming from.
The AI is fascinating, like say, from so many different levels. I just wrote about this the other day. It's when I started doing this writing professionally back in 1990, I was using an ancient 1948 typewriter, and the word processor. A lot of people, purists, were complaining about. And I've got to be honest, since I've been using the word processor, my spelling skills have deteriorated, to be honest. But would I go back to a typewriter? I really would prefer not to. And AI is a blessing and curse. Every time I delve into AI and use it for projects, I'm amazed at how fast it's evolving and the things you can do with it. And it terrifies me because I can see such blatant plagiarism and incorrect information being passed off as fact, and horrible things being done with it is really scary. But I don't think we should be fearful of it. We should learn to use it as a tool. Exactly. But yeah, it's very it's concerning and it's exciting.
Right. Just like every new innovation.
Yeah, most definitely. I find basically what I've used it for, I've tinkered with a couple of things, but I write blogs for corporate clients, and these are relatively generic, and I use it to get a framework. I don't use it to write anything, but I use it to get the framework. For example, if I'm writing for a kite store, it's so easy to put in, I need details on 75 kite events in the world. And then I can fact check and I can compose the story around that. Whereas it used to take me an hour, hour and a half to do this kind of research, 2 minutes. I have the list of kite festivals and I can verify the information and then compose the article or the blog.
Right.
And there's so many things that can be done with this. That's pretty impressive. And I had personally, before I started using AI, I had no idea that there was a kite festival in Wisconsin at a nudist camp that's been going on for 40 years. I had no idea. But that's a story for another day.
How do you plan on visiting it that you know?
No, probably not. I can't say as I do have those plans. And I know that Judy definitely does not have those plans, but I digress.
Ask what Judy thought of it.
but it's interesting what you can do with AI. And one of the things I did do, and I'm not ashamed I did this by any stretch. I was curious. When I was in Tulsa 2 years ago, the podcast, when it was on Podbean, I was really starting to develop momentum. And typical tech stuff, I tested all my equipment, tested everything, and I was going to do a live podcast from the Road Fest in Tulsa. I tested everything 30 minutes before the program. I went down and got a donut and a coffee. I came back and nothing worked. So the next year, I got curious. And I thought, I don't want to leave the podcast hanging. So I used Notebook LM and I created an entire podcast talking about my books, talking about being on the Road Fest, upcoming Route 66 centennial events, all of it. A conversation between two people. And I just wanted to see the reaction. And I was amazed how many people got a hold of me and said, this is wonderful that you've got some staff now, because we worry that you spread yourself too thin. This was a fascinating program. Who I've never heard these people before. They're not people. But I found it interesting that I could do that.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it was unnerving and exciting. The fact that I could create an entire program with nobody. And it was also unnerving thinking if I had nefarious intent, what could be accomplished. Pretty unnerving.
Right. And and there are people who do use that for those purposes, unfortunately.
And I want to let you go. I want to thank you for doing this, being my guinea pig. I owe you. I wanted to see how this works. Next week, folks, I hope to have this OSB studio figured out. It looks like everything's good here on YouTube, but I want to really enhance the program with overlays and photos. I'd like to have had stuff up from Annie Mouse, but I will have the links for Annie Mouse and when I publish this and information about the series. And we'll try it that way and see if we can get this going. It's kind of like Mayberry television or something sometimes.
Well, my new activity book is so new that I haven't even had time to update my website to put it on there. But it's on my Facebook page, both my Annie Mouse Books Facebook page and my personal page. I think I have it pinned on.
Okay.
So
so
people won't my website.
I will get that all linked and put together, and hopefully we can do better than we did last year with a visit, and we can talk about where the books are available on the road, and we can get all that information together. Kind of nice.
Yeah. So, I'm obviously not aware of exactly which day I'm going to be in Kingman, but I will try to give you a better heads up this time, and hopefully we can get together with you and Judy and have a nice meal together and more time to visit.
Yeah, just a day or two's notice. We'll see how things go. Lately, the way my world's been so upside down, long-term planning is what are we doing today for lunch?
Right.
It's just so insanely topsy-turvy. It's darkly comedic. Let's put it that way. on just how bizarre things can get and how fast. But
Right.
such as the grand adventure we call life.
There you go.
I have another 30 years like this will probably kill me. I have a feeling. But meanwhile, we'll just keep going.
Well, here's another 30 years.
Yes. And thank you. And please travel safe and dodge those hailstones. I've some pretty impressive ones out there lately.
Yes, that's one word for it. All right. Well, thank you for having me. Great talking to you.
All right. We'll talk soon, Ann.
Hi.
Bye-bye. Okay. This has not gone as bad as I thought, and it hasn't gone as planned, but we get by. Hey, I wanted to share a couple things with you before we go hang up. I want to thank Casey Claypool. She just provided me with the new Illinois Route 66 Scenic Byway Visitors Guide business directory. If you're going to be on Route 66 in Illinois, I really suggest you grab a copy of this. It is pretty spectacular. All kinds of great stuff in this. And the folks in Tulsa, well, I tell you, they're selling everything on the hog, including the squeal. We got some great folks working on a new magazine, Route 66 Centennial. This is a wonderful publication, and Ken Busby's involved, and Michael Wallace is involved. So you know this is going to be quality. I don't have a guest yet for next week, so I can't tell you what we're doing. It has been an interesting week, as I started to talk about before we had Ann on. I have had just problems like you wouldn't believe. Got this cold. It's amazing how much we depend on internet service for everything anymore. And I was down for several days this last week. So this next week, it looks like I'll be looking for an internet service provider. We've had some outages in the past, but nothing like this that was this crippling. And it truly was crippling. With that said, I will bid everyone adios. And we will do this again next week here on the Jim Hinckley's America YouTube channel. Please chime in, share your ideas, your thoughts, your input. And don't forget to check out the Jim Hinckley's America website. Lots of interesting things there. Over 10 years of blog content with history, travel tips, updates. Marian Pavel is on the road with the Route 66 navigation app, testing some new features, and he's on the road with the Route 66 Centennial Passport. Of course, Ann Slanina with Annie Mouse is on the road. You might watch for her as well. If you got some young folks want to inspire them with a road trip, that's a pretty exciting update. Let's see what else we've got coming up. Details haven't been finalized, but in October 6th, I think it is, I will be speaking at an event in 29 Palms, California. I'm scheduled to be at the AAA Route 66 Road Fest in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the end of June. I'll be speaking there. And I've got a few other things going on. You can look for me on Fox News. They've got Chelsea Torres on the road doing a series of Route 66 programs, and I sat and talked to her about Route 66 the other evening down at Calico's Restaurant. Speaking of Calico's Restaurant in Kingman, Arizona, they have a large selection of my autographed books, the old Jim Hinckley section. You can get the official Coffee with Jim mug at Calico's Restaurant, or you can order it online through the gift shop, the Route 66 Centennial gift shop on Kingman Tours website, the Kingman Main Street Kingman Tours, that was developed by Talisman Magic Marketing. And that's real easy, www.kingman.tours. Easier than that. They've got a nice Route 66 Centennial gift shop. I think you'll find that of interest. I think that brings us up to speed. So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about this, but it's a definite change, and we're working to keep Coffee with Jim alive and going. We'll try it again next week. Until we meet again, my friends. Adios. Let's see. We could find. Oh, by the way, the theme song. If you need road trip inspiration or anything like that, check out roadcrew66.com. And the Road Crew. If you need a theme song for your road trip or road trip inspiration, roadcrew66.com.
Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a 2-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Adios, my friends.